Let's get the thoughts of Mr. Bolaniwa. He says that the timing may be wrong by this time. Do you see it as such that the timing should have been perhaps maybe after the elections? Yes, if you can hear me, I was just asking you that he sees it as a time issue, that the time may be wrong. Do you see it as such, considering that the elections are just by the corner?
Yes, I will want to agree with Mr. Ario on that. We have a lot of things in the pipeline now, and that is why I said it's not something that is implementable. The issue of constitutional amendment alone is going to take almost 6 to 12 months. And we're talking about a major reform here. I will also want to agree with Mr. Ario on the fact that putting it in the hands of the IG and few governors to reform the police within a short time could be a wrong footing to start with. We have experts all over the country. We have retired police officers. We have experts like myself who have worked abroad and we have worked in other countries, police reform, that we are willing to assist in this kind of situation. Currently, the IG has his hands full. And I don't know how long he still got to spend in the force. I don't know when he's going to retire. Is this something that he can achieve before he retires? Is somebody coming after him be able to continue and sustain it? So that is all the areas that we want to be looking at in the next few weeks and putting in our own contribution if they are willing to listen to us. There has been a police reform before now, which we don't know where it ended. We really need to look at what went wrong there and try as much as possible to make sure that the impediment of the previous reform did not reflect in the current reform. The decentralization of policing is a 21st century policing thing. It's happening in the UK, it's happening in the US. This is Nigeria. It is important that we do it right and we get it right.
Now, this is what we know to this point. Zamfara, Plateau, and Borno State, in particular, have been attacked the most in recent history, if you remember. But what contributions do you see, especially the governors, who are supposed to be the chief security officers of those states, bringing to the table in this decentralization plan?
One of the major areas is the issue of funding for the police. Currently, and in the last 3-4 years, there has been a major funding problem for the police. Training and retraining, which is supposed to be taking place, is not taking place because of major funding breakdown. I think the essence of this is to try and make some governors responsible in the way they assist in funding police. And if you are able to fund employment of police, training of police, equipping of police to meet the type of challenges you are facing in your environment, I think the end users of police services will be able to enjoy a better service from the police. It will also help in the issue of deployment of available manpower to meet the specific problem facing a specific location in Nigeria. So I don't know the quota by which we have been posting police to Zamfara, Benue, and Jos, and Pt.2. But you can see recently that in those places, police were overwhelmed. That's why we have to bring in the military into issues that is supposed to be resolved with civil authority. We are yet to restore civil authority to Borno State as it is now. That is still hanging in the balance. Hopefully, if more responsibility, more resources, and more power is given to the governors, I believe that it will bring the resources home and it will help to be able to raise the necessary power and the necessary strength needed to police a particular geographical location in Nigeria.
When the governors come in, what role do you see them playing, especially for these 3 states was hit by attacks, especially by marauders in Zamfara State, for instance? Yes. What can they do? What can they bring to the table for the governors?
For all I know, none of them is a security professional. Neither were they retired generals or retired policemen. So they're just going to be looking at the political end of it and maybe the economic part of it as well. But it goes beyond that. This thing stands on 3 planks, okay? the economic, the political, and of course, professionalism. They don't know the basics of all of these things. And for me, I would never have appointed them into the committee. Because, it's not their forte. Okay? They are politicians. They just be allowed to manage their political sphere. Okay? And allow people who know. As he rightly said, there are enough trained people around in Nigeria, in and out of service, who will be willing to contribute their own quota to this move.
Do you think this move has the capacity to, for instance, say, to lay to rest that controversial discussion of whether or not to have the security architecture of this country to be revisited again, to be revamped? Yes. For instance, saying that the security chiefs, we should have them replaced in some places. Yes. They have hammered on that, especially the Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, at some point came out to say that if they cannot protect the people of this country, especially when we had when the herdsmen-farmers conflict was at its peak. Yeah. He made those comments. Do you think that this has the capacity to address that question?
Ordinarily, yes, it should. The system that we presently have is such that the state governors are seen as the CSO of their respective states. Unfortunately, they have no control even over the policemen that protect and guard them. To that extent, and anomaly. But in this case, it will give them direct control. Okay? Again, the issue has always been, do they have the political maturity whereby they will not abuse all of these things? We are talking of politicians. It's not a secret that they all use thugs, that they arm thugs, okay, for their purposes. Again, when you look at police...
Are we ripe? Are we ripe for decentralizing the police force?
We have to, as it is.
No, the question is, are we ripe?
I want to agree to I'll just say 40%. 40 because we have states that cannot pay civil servants for months, that cannot pay teachers for months. You are now saying you want to hire people, equip them, train them, arm them, and put them on the street. If you don't pay them their salaries as and when due, what do you think will happen? You will end up endangering the lives of the citizenry more, if beyond whatever you will have thought. And that for me is a serious point. Number two, would they be put to illicit use? Because today, an average governor in Nigeria is an emperor.
Just hold your thoughts for a minute or two. We're going to go on a very short break. And your words have been corroborated by the Minister for Power Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, who thinks that he does not stand in line with having state police up till this time. We're going to look at that when we return after this break. Join us again.